the home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
Views,
there's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
Sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuga Online, your inspiration radio station.
Hello, welcome to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. How's your week been? What you been up to? What's happened in my week is that I spent a week with family. We went away on a holiday. It was time for family time, but also quiet reflection. And a lot of time in nature, a lot of time to absorb nature, which of course is very healing and allows me personally to reset, to go and say, okay, right, let's do the next week, let's do the next months before the next holiday. While I was there, I was thinking, okay, well, obviously we get to eat too many ice creams and we get to eat the wrong things. So it's also time to go back to water, to go back to eating healthily. Yes, but also I was actually thinking about the advice that we give other people and also the advice that we tend to receive. But before we dive into that, let's talk about Healthcare Hour with me, Colleen Qvist. It is about us understanding as people, at some point we're going to be the patient. And each day we're making choices that could impact our health. How aware are we of them? Also, what happens, as I said, it's time to eat healthily again. And I'm not for a moment saying that we shouldn't go on holiday and eat the ice cream, but we can't come home and eat the ice cream and continue to eat the ice cream. So at some point there's a choice. What I'm also seeing as well is that we need to have autonomy of our own health. We need to have autonomy of our decisions and what happens. And we also need to improve the relationship between the healthcare professional and the doctor. So many people, I'm amazed, will go and see a doctor or some other healthcare professional, and you'll say, okay, what did they say? And they say, I don't know. So what's the prognosis? What's the diagnosis? I don't know. And so what you're seeing, though, is that people just have whatever the healthcare professional decides, whether we're going to chop your head off, or we're going to send you to physio, or we're going to do a procedure next week. Everyone just goes, okay, and they give all their power away to the healthcare professional. So what you're finding is that the healthcare professional doesn't then partner with somebody who makes informed choices. They just in a way, baggage that just goes with whatever the doctor says. But what you're also seeing now is that before, we didn't run off to the lawyers to say, oh, that doctor was wrong. We literally did just believe whatever the doctor said. But now what you're finding is we believe whatever the doctor says or whatever the healthcare professional says, but we now run to lawyers to say, no, that was wrong. That was terrible. Yeah. And of course, this show is also about healthcare professionals because they're people. They have families, they have emotions, they have feelings. And often to be the person that you need, they have to suppress those feelings. They've had to, or that's how they've been taught or haven't been taught. It's almost like they resorted to, not being a person, not being human in order to serve you better. But long term, it doesn't serve them. And of course, when they aren't bringing their whole selves, their healthy selves, it ends up that you're not being, you don't then get the best service. Yeah, so I think let's go for a break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about that advice.
How do you know the life of personal coach you're about to work with is who they say they are? How do you know if they can do the job? At the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology, we can tell you. So, before you share your secrets and spend your money, check with us first. visit www.abccccp.com or call us on 012-751-7608. The ABCCP, the professional body for coaches.
Welcome back. You're listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for your messages. What I was wanting to talk to you about today is about advice. And it's probably quite a sensitive topic. And so let me mention up front, you may be hearing things that may trigger emotions and feelings in you. They also may be emotions and feelings that you've never voiced or you've never even acknowledged that they're there. But yes, advice. How many of us have either received or given the advice that we must be strong and we must not give up? So it's almost like saying, like, Colleen, whatever you do, you've got to be strong now and you've got to just fight this. You can't give up. Okay, so that whole thing as well, you've got to fight this. You've got to fight this. You've got to fight this. You've got to be strong and you can't give up now. Does that advice really serve us? Does it support us when we actually need different things? So let's look at when you would give or receive that kind of advice. Often when a person has been going through their lives and suddenly out of nowhere comes a medical diagnosis of something like cancer, for instance, or they have been in an accident and now suddenly they have broken something or they need something amputated, or they have, or as an example, like a broken back. Or what happens is when a relationship has ended or is ending. What else would there be? Also, so the big changes in life, the retrenchments, the ending where you are let go from your job, if you're on South African and don't use retrenchment. What else is there? There's also, so I'm sure you're thinking right now of something where you've given that advice or you've received it. What happens there is that, remember, this is a big change. You're moving country, you have been let go from your job, you have been faced with any kind of cancer diagnosis, you've been, and not necessarily in you, maybe in a child, maybe in a friend. Obviously in a child, we're also responsible for, okay, what are we going to do? So it's almost like we've got to fight for them to make sure they don't give up. Yes. So you're looking at a huge change where one day our life was just going along swimmingly. Of course, it doesn't mean that this kind of news comes out of nowhere. Sometimes the signals are there, but we are also very good at ignoring the signals until the day we get the actual news. So using my life as an example, for instance, when I stood with the cardiologist and he said to me, Mrs. Qvist, your husband is in heart failure. Okay, that was like a whoa. And it wasn't shrouded in any kind of, well, we think maybe his heart's not working as well as it could be, or no, Mrs. Qvist, your husband is in heart failure. So you go through all those emotions of, it feels like, you've been hit by a fast moving 18-wheeler truck, maybe even a 24-wheeler truck, if you get 24-wheeler trucks. And it's like a shock. So this is where we then go into that whole change process, where in the beginning it's like, okay, yes, I can do this. And then somewhere down the line, you go like, oh, okay, I can't do this. All right. Like, oh, no. And what's also happening as well is that we do know that big change is also associated with grief, where you're going through the whole grief cycle. And as I've said before, grief is not linear. Grief is not, okay, let's just, where are we starting here? Let's just tick the blocks here and zhup, we're done. Grief is complex. Grief is messy. And it's not just a recipe, a formula, like tick, tick, tick. No, we're done, okay? But what's happening in that is, and so let's start off with the person who gets the diagnosis. Of course, more than one person may get the diagnosis because it impacts family members differently. But I'm saying the person who's directly impacted. So what you're finding is that they then get the news, and depending on who they are and what kind of news it is, you might find that they might go into, oh, okay, we're gonna handle this, we're gonna do it. Or they might go into, no, this is devastating. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to whatever. Let's curl up in a ball and no. Or you also get the whole denial story of there's no, this is not happening. No, I will not accept this, and it's not happening. And of course, we don't know how long those stages are, because remember, it's not linear. And also different people may start in different places. So what happens is that when one person gets the diagnosis and their loved ones are in different stages of, oh, how are we going to handle this? But what you're finding is that in that absolute shock of, right, what, where, how, what do I do? How do I handle this? Where? Okay. The idea is to often curl up in a ball and just cry. That's it. Okay. But then the well-meaning people around us, they keep on saying, no, you can't give up. You've got to fight. You've got this. You've got to be strong. You've got to be strong. Even when a loved one dies, you'd be amazed at how many people tell you you must be strong. I mean, when my mom passed away, suddenly it was like everybody came out of the woodwork to say, okay, Colleen, you've got to be strong. Why must I be strong? How long must I be strong for? So it's all those kinds of, yes, people are meaning it well-meaningly, but it doesn't always come out as that. When the person, what we've got to look at is that their reality has changed. So we were plodding along. We thought, like say in a retrenchment, we go to work on Monday. We complain about, oh no, we got to go to work on Monday. And then suddenly there is no work on Monday. Or you imagining getting to your retirement and sitting on the stoep. I don't know if we all managed to sit on the stoep or the patio anymore. I don't think that's a dream of anybody. But like just being retired, like maybe working on your second business or your third business, maybe having left corporate, having left formal employment. You may imagine that you're moving down to the beach, or you're moving to the mountains, or maybe you're not moving at all. You picture her spending more time maybe with grandchildren, or oh, now I've got time to go play cards, or I've got time to. And then it suddenly realizes that maybe you don't have time to go play cards, time to move down to, okay. And your whole story, the whole narrative of what was in front of you suddenly changes. And please understand that not for a moment am I then saying that, you get a diagnosis of cancer, that's it, it's done. But it's the reality of your life is then different. You may then have to go to, well, first find out what kind of treatment there is. Is there a treatment? What happens if there isn't a treatment? What happens if they're finding different things? You may have to go onto specific drugs. Maybe the drugs don't suit you. Maybe we've got to find new drugs. There's also the idea of, now maybe you sitting in chemo or radiation, whereas you had planned a beach holiday, or you had planned to be sitting in the office on Monday. And now, guess what? Now you're not. Maybe there's dialysis, maybe there's physio, occupational therapy, all sorts of different pastimes that you would never have put in your diary of, you know what I'm going to do on Monday? I'm going to go to physio. It's like, no, none of us have like gleefully looked forward to that kind of appointment come Monday. But it's often forced on us that guess what? Come Monday, we are going to the physio appointment. So I think there, let's go for a break. When we come back, we're going to look at more of why do people say this.
the home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuga Online, your inspiration radio station.
Hi there, welcome back. You're listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. And today we're talking about that well-meaning advice that we've either given or we've received. And that is about, well, you can't give up now. You've got to be strong. You've got to fight this. And my point is that advice, although it's well-meaning, it doesn't always serve us. So what you're looking at, let's look now at why people give that advice. And I think what happens is that it's a big shock. You know, we've said before, it doesn't, there are a whole host of situations that plunge us into different kinds of, I was planning on doing X on Monday. Oh, gee, now I'm not doing X on Monday. So big life changes that suddenly come out of nowhere. Sometimes they don't come out of nowhere. Yeah, sometimes we can see the writing on the wall and here comes, but even when you're expecting something, it can still knock you for six, to use an expression. So why do people automatically default to, they hear somebody has got a cancer diagnosis, or they hear somebody's been retrenched, or they hear somebody has getting divorced, or somebody broke their back, or somebody's had a stroke. They automatically default to, okay, you've got to be strong now. You've got to fight. There's no other option. You've got to fight this. You can't give up. And that's what people just default to. And what we've got to see as well is that obviously it's a shock to the people who are hearing it, not only the people who are living through it, because even as somebody on the sideline, you do live through it. You live through it through your perspective. But it's almost like, okay, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to fix it. But like, okay, what must this person? No, you must be strong. You must be strong and you can't give up. And you must, you just can't give up. Okay? Because your loved one or loved ones, they're scared that you will give up. They're scared that they need to face the reality of you not being there anymore. And that, I'm sure you all agree, is very scary. So instead of like us aiming down there going like, okay, let's work this out. Let's see what we're going to do. It's almost like you've got to be strong. You can't give up. You've got to fight this. Because we don't know what else to do. Another one that people also come up with is this idea of, I'll pray for you. And don't get me wrong, whichever version of prayer you do and whoever your God is, or maybe you don't have a God, prayer is often the solution, because and I mean recently also, I've prayed to say, okay, God, I don't think we as people have the solutions that we need to this particular situation. Please, could you intervene? Because, gee, we need absolute miracles now. But I didn't just say, oh, well, that's it. God's got it now. I'll just sit back and watch him work. It's more a case of what do we practically need to do? So is it things like you could give somebody a lift to the physio? So I will pray for you and I'll take you to physio. Or do you need to run across there and wash the dishes or offer to look after the children? Or how do children get to school every day? Or maybe it's things like, I'll come do your ironing, or I will bring me your washing, or let me come fetch your washing. Let me do your washing for you. Another way, of course, as well, is with all our technology and our changed ways, it's not necessarily that you've got to go and make dinner for somebody and deliver the dinner, off we go across. We all may live very far away from each other. And so making dinner is not always the practical version. sometimes I felt like, okay, go make dinner for somebody, and I think, oh, what do they eat? What don't they eat? What happens if? Okay. And so what I've often done is bought a voucher, buy a voucher for a specific restaurant in that area, especially like if it's a chain restaurant, because we've all got Spurs. Okay. Or put in an order, an online order for frozen food. So I've done that too. I've put in a voucher and I've sent the food. Or what I've also done is sent the voucher and the people have chosen, okay, which one should we have? Okay. And then what's also good about frozen meals is that you put them in the deep freeze and you take one out when you need them. So it's not like, okay, I'll deliver 10 meals to you, but oh dear, what's going to happen to them? They'll all kill you by the time you actually eat them. So there's the practical version of what else can you do. What's also what I've seen as well, and also from my coaching, where I've coached people with a diagnosis of something, what they're finding is that when you want them to be strong and, oh, I'm not having such a good day. No, you got to be strong. Oh, I think I'm going to cry today. I'm very upset about whatever. No, you got to be strong. You got to fight this. You can't give up. It's almost like, okay, so my emotions in the moment, or the person's emotions in the moment of how they're feeling, the reality of where they are on that day, we're telling them that it's not allowed, that you can't just cry today. You can't just stay in bed. You can't be angry. You can't say, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing this. I refuse. I'm not going to a single another physio appointment. Okay, physio, sorry, nothing against you. I'm not going for any more oncology. I'm not going to chemo, and I'm not going to radiation, and I'm not going to update my CV, and I'm not going to, no, I'm just going to sit here. What we really need to do is allow the person in the moment to live in their reality. It doesn't mean that they're never ever going to go back to fighting or being strong or going back to chemo or going back to radiation or going back to, hey, what else? Where can we send our CV? But give them the respect to allow them to be in that specific emotion. Because how do we process emotion? It's an awareness of, okay, this emotion feels like this. Oh, okay, what's the feeling? What are the thoughts causing the emotion? And then to get to what action do I need to take? Because people are sitting in an emotion of, that's it, I'm never going back to physio, doesn't mean they're going to stay there. But when we force them to say, okay, you can't do this, you are going back to physio, and you have to. We're telling the person that they must do this on their own, actually, how they're feeling on any given day. And I mean, I've also spoken to people and they've said to me, you know, Colleen, some days are hell. Some days are really hard. And they aren't able to talk to their closest loved ones because the loved one thinks, oh, okay, now mommy is giving up. Mommy's not going to do this anymore. And so they end up feeling very lonely and isolated because there is no one to actually just listen in the moment. Things like, today I'm going to eat ice cream. No, you can't eat ice cream because that's going to impact something or other. Okay. So it's just for us to be aware that when we want to, we are very much people who like to solve things. We like to make things better. And when we don't know how to solve things or make them better, then a lot of people resort to, oh, I'll pray for you, because it's almost like, oh, well, okay, I don't know what else to do. I'll just pray for you. And as I said, prayer absolutely works. But be the person who prays and takes the person to physio. What you're also finding is that it's the situation of we don't know what to do. We are not going to face our emotions because what happens if the person isn't here anymore? And then after the break, we'll also look at, you know, sometimes when we get a diagnosis or we get news, we need to make future plans for all different scenarios about, okay, what happens if I do conquer this? What happens if I don't conquer this? What happens if, do I really want to carry on in the same path whether I make it or I don't make it? Do I want to change jobs? Do I want to spend more time with somebody or other? But let's go for that break.
The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is a professional development center for professionals who aim to improve their professional standing. This means that the learning programs we run are more than just academic programs. They are work-based programs that focus on leveraging your current experience as a professional to build your overall profile. A year down the line, the Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is developing into a preferred center for professional development in Pretoria, with 8 professional development faculties including accounting, teaching, entrepreneurship, as well as IT and many more. For more information, go to acwbl.org or dial +27 12 751 7608. The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning, where work is learning.
Welcome back. You are listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist. And today I'm talking about a sensitive topic, and that is advice. The advice that we tend to either receive or we dish out freely to anybody and everybody whenever they get a life-changing diagnosis, a life-changing piece of news, and they go through some sort of loss, whether it's loss of loved ones, loss of a job, loss of identity, or as I said, the medical diagnosis, where you diagnose with cancer, or you get told, okay, you broke a leg, a back, something in the accident, you've had a stroke. As I mentioned, my husband in heart failure. There needs to be, okay, what's the way forward? And too often we get that advice of, oh, well, you can't give up. You've got to be strong and you're going to beat this. And there's just no other option of actually feeling your emotions, sitting in the emotions, sitting in the feelings of this is a train smash. So when you say to somebody, oh, this is an absolute train smash, they will say, no, it's not. No, 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 no. Come on now. You're going to fight this. You're going to beat this. You've got this. You can't give up. You've got to be strong. As opposed to saying, yes, I totally agree with you. It is a train smash. Talk to me about the train smash. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? Describe the reality. And I've seen also in my clients, I work with a lot of therapists with people in depression, boredom, and loneliness. And it's quite fascinating to see that so many people have, oh no, don't talk to me about what you're experiencing, what you're seeing, how you're feeling. It's now, come on now, you can be better, you can be better. And them being better is so far, it's so distant. It's almost like from the person who's sitting on the couch and you now want them to run a marathon. People sitting on the couch who've not even walked to the door can't run a marathon. But could they get up and walk to the door? And so that's where you start to like chunk it into little pieces of not like zoom out on the horizon over there. Once you've had 22 chemo appointments, so many radiation appointments, you've lived in dialysis, you've gone to physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, like whatever. Yes, you will be better. But maybe not ever better the way you were. You will go forward to a new better, a different way. I'm reminded then of when we were in COVID and lockdown. It's more a case of we kept on wanting to go back. We can't go back. We're going to go forward to where we need to be. But in order to go forward, people, please, we have to understand and accept the reality of where the person is on any given day. And remember that these changes are not linear. They're not right. We've done this week. Now we've moved into that next week. Sure, we've got this, eh? Because somewhere down the line, the person is going to be in floods of tears. They're going to have anxiety. They're going to be fearful of what it is. And they also may have this reality of, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. So what we've got to see there is that respect the person enough to work with your own emotion and what is it that you're feeling, and also to love the person enough to say, okay, I'm listening. I'm not going to fix. I'm not going to make it better. I'm not going to come up with a magic wand or a special prayer or a, yay, let's all just make this all go away. All I need to do in the moment is listen. And what you're finding as well is that people sometimes, we all have this, we're going to live forever. But it's categorically true that we're not all going to live forever. We don't know what the timeline is. We don't know what kind of quality that timeline is going to be. And so when the person starts to think, oh, I may not be living to 110. Okay. Do I like doing what I'm doing? Maybe it's a chance to say, I don't like doing what I'm doing. Maybe it's a chance to sort out relationships with X, Y, and Z. It could be a chance to get all your documentation in order. There's nothing worse than when somebody has got to go look for what's the password, where's the bank account, how does that work, where are the keys to something or other, what's the numbers for the safe, or whatever you have in a safe. Yes, and so when you put all that together, at some point, people are going to leave you because you are going to die. It's guaranteed, okay? We just don't know what the timeline is. But it allows them to just grieve, not like work out, did mom have a policy? Didn't she have a policy? Oh, where's the will? Did she have a will? Don't know, okay? What's the password to the bank account? How, where? We don't know those things, okay? And so it's also an opportunity that maybe you've also always wanted to go to Italy, or you've always wanted to plan it, okay? What you're also finding is that sometimes people will say, okay, now my funeral. And people say, no, we're not going to talk about that. Remember, you're going to be strong. You're going to fight this. You're not going to give up. As opposed to saying, no, let's talk about funerals. Okay, memorial services. What does it look like? What hymns are we singing? What songs are we singing? Are we having music? Because you know what? Instead of you sit there and you go like, I know like when my mom passed away, it was almost like, okay, what music would mommy like? What flowers does she want? And we obviously knew her well enough, but it was still like, oh, okay, maybe she would have said, hey, by the way, at my funeral, at my memorial service, make sure everybody wears. For me personally, I've always said, oh, please don't wear black and gloomy, doomy, or let's cry, sit around. By all means, yes, as part of remembering me, as part of, there's going to be the moments where you laugh uproariously and, oh, my hat, remember when Colleen did X, Y, Z. But there's also, yes, there will be crying times. But don't feel like you need to grieve and like wear black. Okay, so I can have that conversation with you. Wear colorful, be happy, be like, and also celebrate my life as opposed to grieve my death. So that makes it a lot easier because it also gives people permission, because remember, we're all going to die. And no, Colleen's not planning on checking out in the next week, month, year, or whatever, decade even. But it's also saying, what do we need? So often people express the need to get things in order, to put the ducks in a row, to find the ducks, to put them in the pond. And what's happening is that loved ones say, no, you want us to wear green to this memorial service? We're not even entering into this. You want no flowers? No, we're not. No. And it doesn't allow the person to speak about it. I think I need to phone Uncle John. Okay. No, you haven't spoken to John for the last 30 years. You don't need to speak to him now. But the person often needs to speak to Uncle John and sort things out and put things in place. And it doesn't mean that they're giving up. It doesn't mean that they're ending it, that they are out of here. It also doesn't mean that they're strong. They are being strong because they're facing the reality of what happens if, what else could we do? So it might seem quite tough things that I've said, you might feel like, oh, Colleen has really touched some nerves here. As these nerves get touched, as you feel how you're feeling, sit with how you're feeling. What for you has come up in what I've said? Have you been listening to your loved one? Maybe you need to listen to you. Maybe you're the person with the diagnosis or the life-shattering news. What do you need? How can we listen to you? What support do you need? And how can we hold your hand but not do the journey for you? And those are my questions today. So when you feel tempted to go, hey, you can't give up here now, you've got to be strong, you've got this, I'll pray for you. Ask yourself, how else can you be different? Can you sit with a person? Can you listen? Because also we may go through, yay, we've got this, we totally whatever, but there's going to be a day or a moment or a week that's not good, where you don't feel like you've got this, or you're going to be strong, or you're going to be whatever. And when you pray for people, please do so practically. Please take the person to physio. Please send the voucher for the frozen food, or the voucher for a local, listen to me, not a voucher for the local hospital. Though with medical aid being the way it is and medical care, a voucher for the local hospital would be good. But I don't think you get that. Yes, please actually send the voucher for a local restaurant or a chain of restaurants, and preferably one that delivers, not somewhere where you've got to go out there. But sometimes it may be good for the person to go out and sit for 30 minutes in a restaurant and eat a toasted sandwich. So wherever you are, please know that you are loved, you matter, and you're not alone. And we've got you. We're listening to you. We're supporting you in your moment, because we know that when we support you in your reality, you will be able to find options and, yes, move forward. Thank you for listening. You have been tuned into Healthcare Hour with Colleen Qvist, and I look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy your week.
The home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What do you say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuga Online, your inspiration radio station.